But let's move on because of time. It will be remiss of us if you don't talk about the raging controversy concerning the Chief of Staff, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, or Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, the Chief of Staff of the President of the Federal Republic, concerning this now termed phantom organization, the PFIC, Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council. Of course, you know the sordid details, so there's no point rehashing it. The denial, counter denials, the man has been arrested, Prince Adeni Adeyemi has been arrested now. Can you speak to this? What's your opinion about this? The seeming total failure of state institutions and all of those.
I recall that after one interview that I granted one of the national media outlets, and I used the phrase dysfunctional presidency. Some folks approached me and said I was harsh. I will repeat. The subject matter is a classical manifestation of the level of the dysfunctionality of the presidency of the Nigerian state. And like I said earlier on this same subject matter, I am not interested in the certain Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila GCON. I'm not. I am more concerned about the fact that a certain Bayo Ononuga, presidential spokesman, has acknowledged that the presidency of the Nigerian state was infiltrated by an impostor, a con artist. And this impostor and con artist at least attended functions where he was 40 centimeters close to the incumbent vice president of the Nigerian state, Vice President, His Excellency Kashim Shettima. It means that he could equally have had access to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu if an impostor that you have agreed could have access 40 centimeters, the pictures are in public domain, to the vice president.
Before we switch away, move away from this subject matter, the president eventually did cave in and expressly mandated the ICPC to carry out an investigation into this matter and submit their reports within 30 days. But you said here yourself, Dr. Fagbemi, that there was a case of the ICPC who were meant to have investigated. Okay, a petition was written by Dangote. Hold on, Doc. Aliko Dangote wrote a petition concerning a public official, the former executive secretary of the NUPRC, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then we never had anything. The guy eventually left, but we never had anything. Is it proper for President Tinubu to have mandated the ICPC to ask for an investigation of this matter when Mr. Gbajabiamila is still in office? And this ICPC will report to him, or he would oversee. Just speak to this 1 or 2 minutes, Doc.
The incumbent president is shying away from executing his office. Ideally, like I said on Arise Television, what ought to have taken place is for the president to have activated the Tribunal's Inquiry Act, because the ICPC, like every other entity, you remember that some of the pleadings that is now in public domain as part of the things that have been taken to court says that the matter actually had gotten to the police, and you ask yourself, if it had gotten to the police since last year, how come the sharing of the data as information, as press releases, never came from the force public relations system? That it had to be coming from the certain Bayo Ononuga of infamy with all his funny press releases that are basically strategic distraction, strategic desensitization, and strategic disinformation. How come the police never issued statements before the certain Bayo Ononuga? How come this character was apprehended and he was flown by private jets who authorized the use of private jets? Under which vote did the money to hire the private jet get released? That's why I said I'm not interested in the nitty-gritty of that unfortunate matter. I have said ideally what you want me to say is when you have officers that appear complicit, the correct thing based on public service rules which are applicable is for them to proceed on administrative leave pending the investigation. Do we expect any miracle from ICPC? I've said it and I'll repeat it for the records. I do not expect anything to come out of the ICPC investigation. If by now a respected global citizen like Aliko Dangote will raise an alarm, he was compelled to raise an alarm in public domain, and he even followed suit by filing a petition to the same ICPC. And the ICPC said, even though it appears as if Aliko Dangote has been assuaged and he may be wanting to withdraw his petition, that petition is already public record. And ideally by the statutes that established the ICPC, what should have happened is that the ICPC should have done a thorough investigation. And this brings me to the oversight responsibility of the now infamous rubber stamp National Assembly under the auspices and leadership of a certain Godswill Akpabio. Now, when you look at what ought to have taken place over that particular matter, you should have expected that an oversight investigation should have been done. Because when you are looking at what we are dealing with, Dangote Refinery is a national asset, is a national security asset. If we did not have a Dangote Refinery when this Iran-US-Israel tango and the Strait of Hormuz crisis started manifesting, we would have been in dire straits. Now, it means that if anything was going to affect that national asset, and then we need to start emphasizing the need for us to be careful. If we don't get these things investigated, I know Voila was with you, and a number of them are trying to politicize it and saying you cannot expect the president to remove Gbajabiamila because it is politics, and that's why I've tried to stay away from all those dynamics. And I'll say to them, in the Bible, Caiaphas, the high priest that year, had to say it is better for one man to be crucified than for the entire nation to perish.
Thank you, Doctor. Do you believe the opposition parties, many have accused them of always crying wolf? Some say they are lazy. Many say they are lazy. Mr. Daniel, you referenced a couple of times, said they are intellectually daft, very strong, pejorative. But are they doing enough, in your opinion, Dr. Fagbemi, to put the ruling party, the ruling government on its toes, to put them under pressure? Like one of my very good friends, Professor Chidi Odikalu, said that if you don't put the ruling, and I agree with Chidi Odikalu, it's everywhere in the world. I mean, we see in the British Parliament, leader of opposition putting incumbent Prime Minister every Tuesday, PMQs, on their toes. Do you think the opposition political parties, are they doing enough to put under pressure, positively speaking anyway, the ruling party?
The Nigerian political system, and I'm speaking as a political scientist now, is populated by individuals and characters that are only interested in state capture and see the dynamics of democratic practices, institutions, and succession only from one prism, as an opportunity to capture the state and appropriate and implement and utilize for their selfish ends and not necessarily for the common good. If their interests were integrated national development and growth, the opposition would have become more vibrant. And mind you, people will always make reference to the fact that when ACN was transmuting 2012 to 2013, eventually to become APC, they were more vibrant as opposition, and that was why it was easy for them to oust the PDP, Jonathan, in 2015. They must never forget the fact that those are elements that were mindful of the fact that if they do not orchestrate this, they will never be able to take advantage of the state capture mentality. And once they have captured it, and the number of the people that are now in opposition, they themselves were political opportunists in the real sense of it, only very few. So they cannot perform, they cannot give what they don't have. When you say they have been classified by some other individuals.
Very important. Dr. Fagbemi, has this government of President Tinubu, have they crossed any red lines that have raised your concern? I've had guests here who told me they are seriously concerned about a number of things, but for you, political red lines, judicial red lines, democratic red lines, even legal red lines, which of these have this government, crossed in your opinion? And also, add to it, some have said the president is not doing whatever he is doing just to win election next year and leave office 2031, that there is a very strong likelihood of him staying in office, life presidency or third term or fourth term. Your views?
The issue at stake when you want to reflect on the subject you have just tried to fly the kite on has more to do with the inability of this incumbent government to receive and process feedback. That's a red flag and red line for me. The inability of this government to receive feedbacks, process it properly.
Constructive criticism, advice.
Feedback. The constructive criticism is part of participatory democracy. Military administration will receive feedback and they will process it and use it to implement. I was privileged to have served under the President Ibrahim Babangida administration, which was military, and then the Abacha administration. And I was privileged to have been in charge of what was called the National Mood Reporting, which was a feedback thing. So you collate the data, you take a look at it, mirror it against your policies, and then you do the needful. Now, a responsive government takes the feedback in. The next red flag for me is their mismanagement of the information system that is very problematic.
Okay. You didn't talk about the rumored or alleged tenure elongation.
It is correct to assume that the way they are going about it, when you have a National Assembly that is hand in glove with the executive, and you've already started airing a certain Okeyemi Bamidele Senate leader talking about an amendment when they come back. And this is where, to me again, it says, is he thinking the way normal human beings think? Are they all thinking the way normal human beings think? How many of us can determine that tomorrow we will wake up for you to start planning? But if you are to look at all the parameters, it is clear that it is not impossible that a third term, by default with the single term agenda, when they come back to that bill, may be in the workings, and mind you, if they could pass the change of national anthem in one day. And this is where you were asking a question earlier on, the weaponization of the Cyber Crimes Act. It is an attempt to make it difficult for citizens to challenge. And you remember they attempted it with the Infectious Diseases Bill. in 2019 or thereabout, 2019, 2020, I had to do a piece that challenged the then incumbent speaker, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila. He had done the infectious diseases bill reading, first reading, second reading the same day, and they were to resume the following day to come back and railroad that infectious diseases bill through. But I was able, within the number of hours, to develop a 12-page instrument that I used in challenging, and then they started lobbying. Unfortunately enough, and I must thank those of you in the media that are able to allow some of us ventilate the way we do. We were able to do that. Unfortunately, these people have succeeded under this administration to muzzle the media.
Final question, Doc. What possibilities exist for defeating President Tinubu by any or a combination of the political parties angling for that office, democratically speaking, in 2027? What possibilities, logically, reasonably, in your own mind, as you know, enlightened on this matter?
I will say they should recall Abraham Lincoln. How Abraham Lincoln was able to harness, aggregate, and deliver a team of rivals. What will save Nigeria going forward, 2027 beyond, is government of national interest, security, and unity. If they do not understand that, they are not starting. I pray the political actors, the political class, will re-engineer their mindsets to understand that they can constitute a team of rivals. You asked me a private question by chat on one of the presidential candidates, Prince Adebayo, and I said, this is a kind of man that ideally, when we are constituting a government of national interest, security, and unity, will be a better person to serve as the anchor, as it were, of the economy and the issues of development. All these individuals, and I've listened to my good in-law, Osita, who is saying, Osita Okechukwu, who is saying that Atiku should play the role of a statesman. I will play the devil's advocate. Why not ask President Tinubu as well to play the devil's advocate? I will say, ask him to discontinue his own race and let us have a generational shift. So it's not for national interests, security, unity, integrated national development. We need to have a change of guards. We need to have a situation, because at my own age, I was made to understand that we were the leaders of tomorrow. I am yet to occupy any position of trust in the Nigerian state, and I'm already a grandfather. Now, if we continue with the Emilokon spirit and the sense of entitlement of Messrs. Atiku, of Peter Obi, of the incumbent president, and we do not have this paradigm shift, we are going to have crisis on our hands. And mind you, we had the NSAS, we had the end bad governance, and we are having this constriction and constriction and the strangulation of the middle class and the youth. Mind you, those that are educated are easy to manage, but we are now having the Almajiris and the others that are out of school being denied the opportunity of having the intervention agenda that should have improved their lot. You have a situation where the Almajiri Commission is now being made to do projects that are unrelated to the catching and bringing these out of school children to school. If we don't get it right, Chief Obafemi Awolowo told us, he forewarned us, that if we do not take care of this children of nobody that have been relatively deprived, and the system is frustrating. When the uprising comes, the beginning we may know, we are definitely not going to be able to ascertain and know the end.
Nice place to anchor, Dr. Fagbemi. It's been a wonderful 1 hour, 10 minutes session with you. I didn't expect any less. Thank you for coming, Doctor. And I'm sure we'll do this, often as we wind down towards 2027 elections. And even after the elections, we'll still be here to review the outcome one way or the other. Thanks so much.
It's a privilege, and I must commend Symphony for a job well done that you are always doing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fagbemi. We appreciate it.